Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Ireland once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel a couple of times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys in the past, mainly quite interesting kinds of IPAs actually, but the one that we're going to have a look at today is a style bracket that I've been getting more into recently, and I have to say I'm quite curious to see how these guys interpret it. So hopefully this is another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review we are going to head to Letterkenny in County Donegal in the northwest of Ireland, in the Republic of course, and we're going to have a look at another beer from Kinnegar Brewing. So this particular beer is called Limeburner. It comes in at 4.7% ABV, and this one is a pale ale, and from what I understand it's one of Kinnegar's flagship beers as well. So yeah, very curious, as I said, to see what this one has in store for us. So a massive shout out in this video to Paul Rogers of Dalriada Imports. He very kindly gave me this beer along with a bunch of other Irish stuff. So pretty much all the Irish things you see me review at the moment are thanks to Paul. He's running a company called Dalriada Imports, which brings Irish beers over here to Scotland, and he is starting to expand it a little bit more, and he's always getting new breweries under his wing as well. So yeah, it's awesome that he gives me all these Irish beers to introduce here on the channel. So I do hope that you guys are enjoying this kind of Irish series of mini reviews, and like I say, a big thank you to Paul for making this possible. So yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see how we go. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Kinnegar Brewing before, and you will see some more added to that list in the near future. Paul gave me another 2 of their beers to look at, so you can look forward to those reviews. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is that you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Irish beers that I've reviewed for you, both from the North and from the Republic. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Kinnegar Brewing. So Kinnegar Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Donegal in the northwest of Ireland. And the company was founded back in 2011 and then opened up back in July of 2013 under the guidance of Rick Levert and Libby Carton. So Rick comes from a background in design and marketing, and he had dabbled in homebrewing from around 2011 before he decided that he wanted to turn professional. And he also took some brewing courses at the University of California, Davis over in America, and the VLB Institute in Berlin in Germany. So the original brewery that they had was in Rathmullen, and it had a capacity of 10,000 hectolitres of beer per year. And from the beginning they were bottling all of their beers, but in more recent times a big chunk of them have been canned. I believe there are a few that are still released in bottles, but I think those are kind of, special editions and barrel aged stuff and things like that, if memory serves me correctly. But they grew very quickly in the early days to the point where their brewing schedule soon became unsustainable. Apparently they were running from 4 AM until midnight just to meet the demand that they had, and so they moved to their new brewery in Letterkenny, which was called K2. They moved there in March of 2017, and this place has a 35,000 hectolitre per year output, which has also allowed them to produce more special and one-off brews, as well as all the core range beers that they do. They do have quite an impressive core range, in fact, but they say that their beers are, farmhouse beers, so they're unfiltered, unpasteurised, and carbonated naturally in the primary fermentation. And as I said, these guys have become quite a popular brewery over in Ireland. I think they're one of the bigger by volume craft breweries over there these days, if memory serves me correctly. But as of November 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, they've produced around 65 different kinds of beer, according to Untappd. But yeah, that is all I can really tell you about Kinnegar Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn a little bit more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, that's it for your history section in this. Just feel I'm getting a little bit of a hiccup there. There we go. But yeah, that is everything about Kinnegar Brewing. So check out all those links in the video description below. But now we can focus on the beer and have a taste of it. So let's have a little look at the artwork quickly before we do that. So as you can see, artwork on this one from Kinnegar, as always, is pretty nice. Back in the day, from what I understand, this is what the beer would have looked like in this bottle. They used to do them in half-litre bottles, as I say, but the artwork on these Kinnegar beers is quite nice. It's quite, you know, sort of authentic. Well, I don't know if you can really say authentic, but it just comes across as really nice. Nice and sort of just handmade. I think that's the whole idea with it. But you can see plain silver top can on this one. This is a 440ml can, incidentally. I'm not sure what this beer would cost. Paul gifted me these beers, so I really have no idea what price to tell you for them, actually. I'll need to maybe ask him about that next time, so I can put that information in the video as well. But you can see at the top here, there is the Kinnegar Farmhouse Beers, Kinnegar Brewing symbol up there with a rabbit, of course, and then that's also on the side of the can back here. But a little quick look at the wee blurb thing on the side. At Kinnegar, we pair brewing tradition with a contemporary sense of adventure to produce clean, crisp and full flavoured beers. The brewery is named after the beach beside its birthplace just to the north of Rathmullen in County Donegal on Ireland's wild Atlantic Way. A 40-metre high hidden sea pinnacle called the Limeburner with chart coordinates 55, 18, north 7, 48.11 lurks where Lough Swilly meets the North Atlantic. A bright white light from Fanad Head once illuminated the rock, guiding passing ships and giving them a hint of another world lingering beneath the surface of the sea. So yeah, I'm guessing that is the picture of the Limeburner then. That's what this one is, and there's a boy there with a beer. I do think that's pretty cool, actually. They always kind of stick to quite local things when it comes to naming their beers, do Kinnegar. But yeah, as we said earlier, 4.7% pale ale, this one. Let's get it out and we'll have a look at it then. I've had some really interesting beers from these guys so far. One of them was like a rye IPA, I think the first one, and then there was a black rye IPA. Those were the very first beers that I tried from Kinnegar, actually. And then the last one was I think that was just a regular IPA, if memory serves me correctly. But yeah, I think quite cool to try one of the original flagship beers of Kinnegar this time. So yeah, that's most of it in the can, out of the can and into the glass for the moment. But let me just line that up again and we can have a look at it. So yeah, as you can see, the head on this one has poured to be about 1.5 fingers, and it's a lovely, I would say, perfect white frothy head. You can see, look at the bubbles on that. Still love this camera, by the way. The definition on it is just amazing, but it looks very, very good, in fact. So yeah, this is just absolutely awesome, I have to say. But yeah, nice. That's one of the best heads I've seen it in quite a wee while. But you can see the colour of this beer is simply just, you know, a pale golden straw. It's got a little bit of that natural haze to it. If I put my hand and fingers behind the glass, you can see there is just a little bit of that kind of naturally hazy sort of thing going on. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of that head there. But yeah, definitely a nice kind of pale golden straw colour. So as I always tell you, the colour of your beer depends on, one, the type of malts that you use. This determines the magnitude of your EBC rating, I guess you could say. The length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do and any adjuncts, of course, that you put in will affect the colour of the beer. But when it comes to a pale ale, you're not really going to have to care about those two variables, to be honest with you. But yeah, nice, naturally hazy looking IPA. This one looks very good. I think this will be more of a kind of West Coasty type pale ale, to be honest with you. Either that, or it will be, you know, very farmhouse and maybe leaning towards an English style pale ale. In fact, I think these guys quite like to use local grains, if memory serves me correctly. But yeah, looks the part of a pale ale. I don't think there's much else that we really need to say about the appearance of this one, so we can check out the aroma and see how we go. Yeah, this should be good. Oh yeah, that does smell pretty nice. I'm going to say straight away, my first impression of this beer is that it's going to be just a really nice, easy drinking one. And you know, sometimes you need that. Sometimes you do just need that. But yeah, this one I think for sure is more of a kind of sort of old school West Coasty type pale ale. It actually reminds me of a number of the beers that I've had from Williams Brothers, one of my local breweries here. in Scotland. Actually, the aroma that you get out of this one is pretty much like some of the stuff you're going to get from them, or maybe even, you know, the Bitter and Twisted or Schiehallion from Harveston just along the road. But yeah, aroma wise, this is very, very nice. So this smells like a proper kind of old school, more traditional type beer, I guess we could say. But yeah, this is going to be just a really nice, easy drinker for sure. So let's try and break that aroma down for you a wee bit more and describe it a wee bit more in depth and succinctly. So backbone of this beer, it's got a lovely, very smooth bready backbone. You can get one or two little bits of a more kind of bread crusty quality in there, but it's got this really lovely, smooth, white bready note to it. And it just comes across, the smoothness you get out of this is very nice. I have to say, I would really love to know what grains and malts and stuff like that they put in that. They don't put that on the website, unfortunately. Kinnegar, but it would be really interesting to know where exactly they're sourcing their malt grains from, because we're quite well versed in hops, but Irish malt is something that I really don't know very much about, and quite a few of the Scottish breweries these days are using Scottish malts. Again, I don't know too much about those. I know a lot more about German malt and American malt, but hops, of course, is a different story. But yeah, the malty backbone of this, I think, comes across as really nicely. It's also got a little bit of a sweetness to it, so you can definitely smell a wee bit of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing coming out of the beer. I don't know if I would go as far as saying there is straight up caramel in it, but it certainly has a more oily sweetness to it in the very middle of the beer as well. So I really like how that goes together. So yeah, bready backbone is very nice, very smooth and quite unique actually for me. And just a little bit of bread crust, and you've also got that kind of McVitie's digestive and very slightly caramelly sort of thing. I do wonder if there could be a very little hint of like lager malt or something in this one, because it just has a wee bit of that almost. It's got a little tiny touch of that wee kind of pilsner sort of crispness to it. It actually reminds me to a degree of some of the more Czech type pilsners that I've had in the past, so I wouldn't be surprised if there is a little touch of lager malt in here as well, to be honest with you. But on the malty side of things, the aroma of this one is pretty spot on, I have to say, so big thumbs up to Kinnegar for that. So let's focus on the hoppy side of the beer then. So green component first. Yeah, and again, what I'm going to say about this beer is that it's not the most kind of in-your-face thing. There are far more complex beers that you're going to come across from Kinnegar. I think this one is designed as a sort of, introduction to the brewery perhaps, or just a sessionable beer. That's what they intend with this one, I'm sure. But yeah, this one is a very straight shooting beer. But if you can do a straight shooting beer and do it well, that's always a good sign. So yeah, on the green component for me, I wouldn't be surprised if this one's got a sort of German noble hop or something like that in it. You do get a nice little bit of smooth, earthy character in the back of the nose. There's a nice, quite bright floral aromaticity. I do think this has got a bit of Hallertau or Tettnang or something like that in it. Potentially one of the slightly higher alpha acid German hops like Pearl or I don't know about Hercules. Hercules might be pushing it a bit much, but maybe Pearl or something like that, for sure. But yeah, lovely kind of bright floral aromaticity. We've got a nice little bit of a lighter kind of grassiness in there, and we've also got I think, yeah, it's the green component for me is quite smooth but quite bright at the same time, and there's a wee bit of zesty grassy character in there as well. So yeah, the green component for me is really nice, and it's actually quite a wet floral, a wet kind of green component for me, so lots of kind of wet, freshly cut grass and floral characters coming out of it, so it gets a thumbs up from me in that regard for sure. On the fruity side of things, I don't know if there's not too much to report on that side of things as well, but there's yeah, I think there's a really nice little bit of there's a really nice little bit of a kind of there is a bit of that sort of lemony, grassy sort of thing coming out of this one, but I'm getting one or two little bits of, like kind of, there's a wee tiny touch of like sultana or something like that, like dried white green grapes. I'm getting a little bit of that out of this one. Maybe a wee bit of an oily pear, but not too much of that actually. I'm getting more of a kind of light apple, kind of lemony, grassy sort of thing coming out of this one. So yeah, aroma wise, I'm pretty sure there's like there's a German noble hop of some description. It's not quite spicy enough to be like a Czech Sats or something like that. Otherwise it could be like a Slovenian Styrian Golding or Dana something like that. I think it's potentially something like that that's going into this one. But yeah, green component, as we say, is very nice and very smooth, and the fruity side of the beer, a little bit of sultana, that kind of lemony, grassy sort of thing, potentially a wee bit of pear, and maybe just a little bit of a kind of light apple actually. But overall, aroma wise, this is really nice. It really reminds me of the Schiehallion lager from Harveston Brewery here in Clipmanager in Scotland, or some of the things that I've had from Williams Brothers, two of my local breweries, of course. It really comes across very, very much like that, this one. So yeah, as I always say, take a little bit of time to ponder over the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But I think it's about time that we taste this one then. So yeah, this one is the Limeburner, a 4.7% pale ale from Kinnegar Brewing from Kinnegar Brewing in Letterkenny, County Donegal, in the northwest of the Republic of Ireland. Let's get stuck into this one. And again, a big thank you to Paul for making this review possible. Slàinte, skål, and cheers. Oh yeah. Again, like I said, this is by no means the most complex beer that you're going to get from Kinnegar Brewing, definitely not, but that is a very nicely done pale ale, I have to say. So, as I've explained in a few of my other pale ale reviews recently, pale ales it's a style bracket that I don't do that many of on the channel, and the main reason for that is that over in Sweden, obviously I'm reviewing Swedish and Danish beer mostly in that case, you don't actually come across pale ales all that often over here. They're a lot more popular in Scotland, Ireland, and England and places like this. And I don't know if that's just due to the taxation reasons in Sweden. It's better for them to make an IPA. It's a kind of bang for your buck thing, I guess, over there. But yeah, pale ales, I think, it's a style that I've kind of neglected a little bit over the years, albeit I've not really had much opportunity with them, in fairness. But yeah, I think this is really very nice actually. If I lived over in Ireland and this beer was in the supermarkets in the same way that Schiehallion or Caesar Augustus is over here in Scotland, then this would be the sort of go-to beer actually. I think this is very, very nice, and this is quite a different approach to the beer that compared to what I've seen from Kinnegar in the past. This is a really nice kind of clean, crisp and drinkable beer. Their other beers are always drinkable, but they are a little bit more farmhousey and complex and things like that, a little bit heavier. So to have something in front of me that's from them that's a little bit lighter and crisper, it's quite an interesting change of pace, to be honest with you, but I think they've done very, very well with that. This definitely could become a go-to. If I even session beer, I don't really session beer anymore because I'm always tasting different things, but this could really be a very satisfying go-to beer, satisfying go-to session type beer if I lived over in Ireland. So yeah, I need to keep this one in mind. But this is a solid drinkable beer. That could potentially be my favourite one that I've had from them actually, which is kind of it's sort of ironic in a way. I've seen this is definitely not the most complex of beers that you'll find from Kinnegar, but I think sometimes you come across beers that just really stick with you. I had the same when I tried Pilsner Urquell for the very first time. That one I just thought was really well done and kind of sat well with me, and this is another one that does the same sort of thing, so well done to Kinnegar Brewing for this. But let's kind of break this beer down and describe the flavour as we always usually do. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so middle and back third of your palate then. So the backbone of this beer is as you'd expect. This is one of these beers where the aroma really reflects the flavour. It really shows you the flavours that you're going to get out of it pretty damn well. So straight away across that middle third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of a kind of bread crusty sort of thing, and that spreads into the back third of the palate as well. But on top of that, you've got this really nice, just crisp, but also very smooth white bready character. And that is the backbone of the beer. If we focus on the middle third of your palate now, so as I say, we've got the bread crust, the smooth white bready character out of this one. If you go towards the front of that middle third of your palate, you do have a nice little touch of a woody character coming out of this one, but I think it just works out. It works out very, very well from that perspective. So yeah, one or two little woody kind of things underneath it. But yeah, it works. It does work very, very well in that sense. It's very straight up beer. So on top of that nice kind of smooth bready sort of thing, I'm just checking to see if this beer does have wheat in it or anything like that. But no, it just says barley. So yeah, and oh, actually no, it does. Haha. Yeah, it does actually have a little bit of wheat in it, so that makes sense. But the wheat in this just gives you that lovely smooth thing there. So the bread, as we say, we've got the bread crust, the barley malt white bread, and you can just feel the wheat just smoothing it out the further you go into the aftertaste too. So that's very nice. But on top of that slightly kind of wheaty layer actually, you can get a little bit of sweetness out of this one, which again I think is very nicely done. So yeah, in the dead centre, of your, in the middle third of your palate, you can feel there's a nice little circle there, and it feels like that's, you know, kind of like McVitie's digestive biscuit. You really get that, and as you move towards the very centre of that, the dead centre of your palate, you get a little bit of you do get a slight little hint of caramel in there, but I would say that's quite minimal. It is more a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of sweetness that you're getting out of this one. And as you go towards the back, of that middle third of your palate, you certainly get a little bit of a more kind of crisp character out of this one. So as I said earlier, I suspect that there might be a little bit of lager malt in this beer, just to give it that wee bit of crispness. But yeah, the way that the malt base in this beer is done is pretty bang on, just for a light kind of sessionable beer, this one. So yeah, I do approve of this one for sure. I certainly would drink quite a lot of this if I found it on tap. I don't know if these guys will have a tap room in Letterkenny, but that's definitely somewhere I would like to do an out and about review. If it does exist, I'll need to have a look at that. But yeah, I think we've said everything we need to about the middle third of your palate. Let's focus on the back third of your palate then. So border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of a kind of bready build up there. There's a wee bit of a more kind of bread crusty sort of thing. Then at the base of the back third of your palate, again you've got a bit more of that kind of bread crusty sort of thing. You can feel that the graininess goes further and further back. And gets a little bit more intense on this one, but then on top of that you can feel you've got that nice kind of smooth white bready character again. It's a little bit thicker than it was in the middle third of your palate. Then you've got the wheat on top of that, and there's just a little tiny hint of bitiness out of this beer on the back third of your palate there. But sitting on top of all of that, you get a little bit of that. You can get a slightly thicker kind of yeasty layer to this beer as well, and it feels quite nice and soft and doughy in a sense. It's got a little touch of dryness to it, but you can feel that on the back third of your palate the flavour is a little bit taller there, so you can feel that. And then as you move further forward, it just can the height of the flavour just condenses down a wee bit, and then the flavours are a little bit more kind of squashed together actually the further forward that you go. So the malty and yeasty backbone of this beer is very, very nicely done, so it gets a big thumbs up from me in that regard. So yeah, quite a different approach from Kinnegar compared to what we've had in the past. Let's focus on the hoppy side of the beer then. So back corners of the palate, it is kind of what you would expect. There is a wee bit of there is a little bit of a kind of earthiness there. So yeah, I think it is some kind of noble hop in this one. It could be, as we say, a little bit of, it could just be a little bit of, Czech Sats, Slovenian, Slovenian Styrian Golding, Dana, or, German Hallertauer, Tettnanger, Pearl, something like that. It's one of these kind of hops that's in here, I'm pretty sure. It could also be something like a little bit, maybe a little bit of Columbus from the States or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, the green component on this beer again is very nicely done. But yeah, a little bit of earthiness on the back corners of the palate. Then as you move further forward, it's a little bit smoother and herbal. And then as you push towards the kind of front corners of the palate, it's got a little bit more of that kind of big floral aromatic sort of thing. And it's got a good little touch of spicy character to it as well. So yeah, there's a nice little bit of a kind of spicy floral aromaticity to this one. So yeah, around the front curve of the palate, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy in a sense. And yeah, you've got that kind of nice wet, freshly cut grass aspect to it. So yeah, floral component for me is kind of nice and bright and yeah, quite nice and bright, but also it's got that little bit of wetness to it, then a nice wet, freshly cut grass kind of vibe around the front tip of the tongue. So yeah, green component, again, very nicely done. Let's focus on the front third of your palate and the fruity side of the beer. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again, you get a nice little bit of bready build up in there. There's a wee bit of bread crust in the base of that front third of your palate. Has a little bit of bread crust and a bit of smooth white bread in there as well. But on top of that, you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. And yeah, I do like how that goes together as well. It's, again, very straight shooting. So towards the back of that front third of your palate, you do get a sort of more concentrated citrusy sort of thing. You can feel that there, but as you move further forward, it does have a little bit of that kind of, you know, sultana, dried white green grapey sort of thing, and you can feel a little bit more of that oily kind of, you do get a little bit of that sort of oily, peary type thing, and a wee touch of a spicy apple, but then you get the sort of lemon, limey, grassy sort of things just as you push towards the very kind of front edge of the tongue there. So yeah, I would be really curious to know what hops are in this one, but yeah, this beer for me is really quite similar to the Schiehallion from Harveston Brewery here in Clackmannanshire in Scotland. There's a lot of similarities to it, and that's probably why I like it so much, because that was one of my kind of favourite beers when I was, if I was having a beer locally, something like that. That's something that I would always try and have, would be the Schiehallion. But yeah, this one, I think, this beer I think is really very, very well done. So a big thumbs up to Kinnegar Brewing for this. I really like it. It's just, as I say, it's just such a change of pace to have something that's, you know, really kind of crisp and clean and drinkable. Their beers are a little bit kind of, the other ones are a little bit more kind of smoother and farmhousey and things like that, whereas this just takes a completely, shows a completely different side to the brewery, I guess we could say. So yeah. So, yeah, for me, on the mouthfeel then, just to round off this review, mouthfeel wise, this beer is in the middle of that light-bodied part of the spectrum. The carbonation is very smooth. It's got a nice little bit of an oily kind of slick character to it, I have to say. So that side of the beer goes together really quite well for me. On the hoppy bitter side of things, I would say, if we talk about IBUs, I think this is a fairly standard, 25, 30 IBU beer. I'd be surprised if it was more than that, to be honest with you. I think maybe about 30 IBUs would be the most for this one, but you do get a nice little bit of that kind of big floral aromatic character, and that comes out a little bit more, it resonates a little bit more the further into the aftertaste that you go, but at the same time it's very fresh. The malty side of the beer has a little bit of graininess to it, quite a little bit of smoothness as well, and you've also got a wee touch of a kind of sweetness in there also. So yeah, a few interesting things going on with this one, but a little bit of there is a little bit more of a kind of, there is a little bit of a kind of dried fruity character to this one, but the fruits, I would say, are a little bit more kind of oily and slick as well. But overall, as I've repeated a few times, I just think this is a very nicely done pale ale, this one. And if it's available in Ireland in the same way that Schiehallion or Caesar Augustus or whatever are available over here in Scotland, then yeah, I could see myself having quite a few of these, just just as a sessioner. So yeah, interesting stuff, this one. So I think we can leave it at that for this review. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Once again, let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Kinnegar Brewery, and do let me know what your kind of go-to session beers are, if there are other ones from different breweries that are quite like this, because this strikes me as one of the more old school type examples of Irish craft beer. So it would be interesting to explore a few more beers that are quite similar to this one. Go back to some of the really older stuff when it comes to the Irish craft beer. But yeah, this has been a really nice review. I have really enjoyed this one. So yeah, thank you again for watching. Check out my social media, check out Kinnegar Brewing social media. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below, and I think we can leave it there. So yeah, this is the Limeburner, a 4.7% pale ale from Kinnegar Brewing in Letterkenny, County Donegal, in the northwest of Ireland. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Big thank you to Paul once again, and I'll see you again with another Irish review very, very soon. Cheers.